It's actually decently warm outside today, and by warm I mean 21 degrees right now, but it will get into the 30s as the week goes on. So some people had some questions about this thing, whether it was on Facebook or YouTube. First one being, how did I get the basket on here? And this was on Facebook, so understandable because I didn't have the video of me installing this, but of course U-bolts here. And these U-bolts are perfect for any bike. I love U-bolts. U-bolts are a Lego build. They're so nice. Of course, a tube design, and just stick anything on here as long as you can bolt it down. I'm using zip ties right now to keep the saddlebags on, which, except for that one, but here I'm using 2. And then for this one, I have the back plate on the back of this ammo crate for a repair kit. And we're using some zip ties right there. And another thing I'll mention is that for this torque converter, I got a new belt. This belt's still doing fine. I just got a new one, or I guess a proper word would be an extra one, because these will go out over time, just as anything would wear out. So it's something that I want to at least keep one extra. I really got to replace the bulb in this thing. This thing is straight up pathetic. I only really want to do a bulb replacement because I love the circular headlight look, but the bulb itself, it doesn't provide enough light, realistically speaking. Engine is stock, of course, because I like having the light, even though this bulb is not the best. The stock engine is the most reliable design. Put a torque converter on there, gear it how you want, but for me, a stock engine is the way to go if you're just straight up using this thing for long distance trail riding. I mean, think about it. You can have a race car, but you probably wouldn't want to take that on the trails for long periods of time. I mean, especially when you don't have support with you. You're your only support. Come on, man. The stock engines, I think they have a purpose, and that is, of course, just straight up, I can switch this thing out for a Predator or any motor off, even like a pressure washer or something, and it will drive. So that's why I'm keeping it like this for at least a while. I'm going to use this motor up before I replace it. Good old 196. I also advocate for the stock fuel tanks, as I love having a lot of gas. I mean, there are, of course, plenty of things that give you options to take the gas tank off, but then oftentimes those little circular barrel or tube cans, I don't know exactly what you call them, but they're more of the external fuel tank design, and let's just say they don't hold as much, and I want to hold plenty. Custom handlebar risers, aka hardware from Ace Hardware, and I just took some piping, some washers, some rubber washers, and some grade 8 bolts, and mushed it all together, so I got about 1.5 inches on the handlebars, which makes a difference for trail riding, at least when you're trying to stand up on this thing. Someone was asking about the tire, and the tire is from the Baja mini bike, but of course, if we budget one of these in, a tire that's more knobby like this, in the same size of 19 by 7 by 8, it's going to be probably about anywhere from 35 to 45 bucks for just one. And really, if you're going on a budget, just getting a same size knobby for the back is a good way to go. I very much advocate for tires. Tires are very important. I want to go with like 20s or 21s on this thing, but I'm gonna wait a little more down the road for that, but that would be awesome. Still have the same stock tire on the front, as it doesn't get worn down even closely as much. Especially because I was riding this on the road, being here in a residential area. But when I get back out to Utah, this thing is going to be on the trails 90% of the time. So we'll be better with our tire wear being off-road tires in that case. So before we change any oil, I want to get this thing running, just because that's what you do. You get it warmed up, you get it all lubricated, then you drain the oil out. Nice wood block starter. Get that throttle going. Get the fuel. Cycle. Oh yeah, that oil's a lot warmer today, I can tell. I should probably turn the kill switch on. No problem at all, man. Stock exhaust, man. Let's just be honest. It's nice and quiet. Very good for things like campsites and all that. I just love this bike, man. They look so good. And they're so much more comfortable than a lot of the other mini bikes out there. Maybe not as comfortable as a Trailmaster as far as I've heard. But I'd say as far as the seat goes and the way the whole frame feels, it really isn't bad at all. Especially compared to like a CT200U. So much better than just a centrifugal, or at least a non-CVT, just a straight up centrifugal, straight chain or a jack shaft clutch system. It doesn't give you the down low that the CVT has. Right now it's geared with just a standard torque converter setup, being a torque converter, and then a 10, and then a 50. I might go with a 9 and a 50. I think a 10 and a 60 might even be a little more than it needs, but I really have to see on the high altitude mountains what kind of gearing I want to use. I love the feeling of a 60 on a jack shaft on my CT200, but it might not need it on this one. Now we got the engine all warmed up, I'm going to stick some oil in it. Takes 1030. I mean, you can put 530 or 1540, and of course 530 when it's really cold, and 1540 when it's more on the hot side. But 1030 is a good all-season oil. I mean, works for me. Platinum full synthetic Pennzoil. I'll put tons of stuff in this thing, and really doesn't care as long as it's the correct weight and there's enough of it. And you change it often, that's what matters. I mean, yeah, you can totally put the nicest oil in here. That's up to you. You can put, you know, high zinc racing oils, just the Valvoline VR1 stuff, but this is a stock engine. Doesn't need anything too crazy here. Oh, there we go. Easy. I got this, so it should catch everything. There we go. Oil's not super duper old, not completely black, which is probably a good thing. I don't see anything too bad at all on here, which I think this is magnetic, so we're looking pretty good. I think we broke this engine in pretty well. Yes, sir. Nice and warm. Just to make sure we got all the original oil out, just gonna tip it up for a second. Making sure. Since this only takes about 0.63 quarts, I'm going to put a little bit in while the oil drain plug is out, so it can flush a little bit of the old oil out. Just a little bit initially. Now we can put more, and this would be the new oil. We're going to be tightening up the chain a little bit because once this bike gets rutting, it gets a little bit too loose. Like, I know it's about a 1/4 inch, but that's As far as I'm concerned, more than 1/4 inch. And we have it maxed out here in terms of bringing the tire back. So I actually have 2 master links in this chain originally, which would be these guys. I think I'm gonna take one out, so I'm gonna move it up here. Master links, let's be honest, they're not as nearly as difficult as just breaking a chain. Except in this case, it might be. Got it. I'll have to actually loosen, push this tire forward again. Here I believe we're using a 14, and I actually think it's a 13, but it worked right there. Yeah, 13. And then I'm just gonna take this out, and boom. Alright, so now we got that loosened that we can actually pull it where we need it to be. I mean, I'm mostly just guesstimating here on exactly where the chain needs to be. But yeah, I think that's actually gonna be right. Dude, I can't wait for the weather where I don't have to wear gloves for everything. Ugh, man, I hate chains. I will hate chains on bikes. There we go. There we go, perfect. So now we can tighten the actual axle back up. There should be about 1/4 inch of travel, which obviously there's more than that right now, but 1/4 inch is enough, and it's just a number, but it's enough for the chain to have enough slack to be able to wrap around the sprockets easily and not actually bind up with anything, because when the chains are too tight, then you can get problems with the binding, and then when it binds, you actually stress each roller bearing of your chain. So you want to have enough slack where the chain's not actually stressing out any roller bearings, because then you're going to actually possibly damage your chain more than it wants to be, you know, used, which would not be good news. So that'll get it done quickly, of course. But I gotta make sure it's aligned. And I'm just kind of roughly guesstimating here. You know, 1/4 inch up and 1/4 inch down. That's pretty good. I'll just get a couple more. I'll just get a few more turns out of that. And then, yeah, it doesn't have to be like so perfect to the point where it's got to be surgically precise. Especially with me. So that's back, all right. Say we're looking just fine right there. Might be a little bit tight, but also, like I said, it will loosen up over the time of riding. The chain does actually, at least for me, loosen up while riding because it's a stock chain. They often stretch quite a bit. A pre-stretched race chain is actually like a racing part that I would very much have no problem going with, just because the chain is, of course, it's what drives you, so you need to make sure it's good, lubricated, and ready to ride. So I'm gonna actually put some lubricant on that chain, and I want to test it out. Well, clearly it's wet outside. I took it for a spin and I was able to get to a much higher top speed than I normally would, being that the road is now somewhat melted. I at least got some spots where I could give it the beans. Honestly, man, I think in terms of the mini bike videos, we're pretty solid until we get back to Utah, which is coming up pretty soon within the next 2 weeks. So that'll be a lot of fun, and I would love to test this on some actual mountain trails that challenge this thing for real. Storage seems to be holding up pretty no problem, and we got our tool set in there. Yeah, I think we're doing pretty good in this case. I mean, at this point, it's just fine-tuning the build we have here. I think the one thing left is to get a better headlight here, because of course the stock one kind of sucks. But I am pretty dang happy with it as of now overall. It's a good stock plus build, I'd say, a stock plus build. And it's just, it's at its limit of where I can really test its capabilities for what I designed this for, well, kind of more built this thing up for, which was to be a good adventure trail riding bike. And of course, tires like this are really meant for the trail, and that's where I gotta go. The next videos coming up over the next 2 weeks are definitely gonna start seeing some changes in what I'm filming, because that's when I'm gonna be preparing to go back out to Utah in the camper. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'll see you in the next one.